folks, Kyle from Bookmakers Review, and it's time for some early looks at NFL's Week 2 action. Look, NFL Week 1 was absolutely crazy. Kickers decided to be kickers and break our hearts, injuries, etc. What a wild Week 1. As we start to get to Week 2 and get to know these teams, things get a little bit easier. Again, it's earlier in the week, so we're going to go over 3 games right now. Let's start with the Colts at the Jaguars. Look, the Colts very disappointing. They did come from behind after a terrible start to tie that game with Houston. Jacksonville, of course, fell to Washington. I think this is a nice buy low spot for the Colts. A little revenge spot here. If you remember, the Jaguars knocked the Colts out of the postseason contention last year at the end of the year. Colts minus 4.5 right now makes a little bit of sense. I'll be looking at team totals later on early in the week. But for me right now, I don't think Jacksonville has enough to beat the Colts. Colts get some of those cobwebs off, shake off some of the rust, a revenge spot. I like the Colts right now as we sit early in the week. Our next game we're going to talk about, and look, we saw Tom Brady do Tom Brady things last night as the Cowboys were dominated by the Buccaneers. Now the Buccaneers go to New Orleans, and look, the New Orleans Saints had to come from behind and beat what we all thought would be a bad Falcons team by 1 point. But the Saints have sort of been a bugaboo for the Buccaneers, so this makes me a little bit nervous. Short week, on the road, early window in New Orleans. I might be leaning the underdog here early in the week. I'm taking a look at the Saints +3 right now, but again, as someone very wise told me, when it comes to Tom Brady, you're either betting on Tom Brady or you're passing the game entirely. Some recent history here makes me a little bit nervous. That New Orleans defense not as good as I thought they would be in Week 1. So it's tough. A slight early lean to the underdog here, but again, it's early in the week, and we got to see how the week shakes out with injuries, etc. And our final game, my 49ers, very disappointing, losing to a bad Bears team on the road. They are hosting the Seahawks next week. Now, again, we got to see what happens to the Seahawks on Monday Night Football, but that's just is not a very good roster. The 49ers, you got to remember, that game was played in a swamp. That the field conditions were terrible, so it's really hard to get a gauge on that offense. Now, they did lose Elijah Mitchell to a knee injury, so it'll be the Jeff Wilson Jr. show in the backfield. I got to say, the Niners are 8.5-point favorites as we sit. Let's see if we get some line movement here. Maybe the Seahawks show us something tonight that we didn't see. I'm going to be waiting on team totals to come out here. I think we buy low on the 49ers this week. I think they bounce back and they beat the Seahawks. I also do not mind a little two-pick parlaying the Colts and the 49ers, getting some value there. I'm still wishy-washy on that Buccaneers Saints game. We'll see how the injuries go throughout the week, how Chris Godwin feels, etc. But this 49ers team, I'm going to buy low. I think they get it done against the Seahawks. I'll be waiting on a team total. I won't be taking any 8.5s. It's too high. But I'll be looking at team totals. Don't forget, if it's winning picks you want, we got you covered right here at Bookmakers Review. Week 1's behind us. Enjoy Week 2, and we'll see you all next week.